Hey guys, welcome to WIM's Masterclass. This one is going to be so good. It's about PR, influencers, and how to elevate your talent's reach and marketability. My name is Jessie Grossman. I'm the founder of Women in Influencer Marketing, better known as WIM. I am so excited about this topic, and we had a great showing of registrants for this one, which makes me enthused because it sounds like you guys are enthused about this topic as well. To boot, we have an incredible speaker who is going to be tuning in or showing herself in just a second. But her name is Vanessa Abron. She's the founder of Agency Abron, which is a creative and artistic direction agency that bridges the gap between the business world and artistic vision. She's a really unique blend of experience in public relations, in marketing, and the arts. And Vanessa empowers her clients to bring the biggest, craziest ideas to life, which we love here. She is definitely an expert on this topic. She's a wealth of information. Just a heads up that we will have an opportunity for Q&A at the very end. So write your questions down and we will have a way to ask her your questions directly. But before we jump in and before we have Vanessa join us, you know I love doing this. Jump into the chat right now and tell me A, where you're tuning in from, and B, tell me your favorite day of the week. Are you like a Monday girl? Like you start the week off fresh? You're like, hell no. Like I'm a Friday girl, like checking out, enjoying the weekend. Are you a Sunday girl that you just have to, relax around the house, enjoy a quiet Sunday? Or for some reason, your favorite Pilates class is on Wednesday, so you're like a Wednesday girly. Let us know in the chat because I want this chat popping for this event. We are a networking group, y'all, so we have to have chatter. We have to have conversation. I want to hear that to start, where you're tuning in from and what's your favorite day of the week. But then throughout the conversation, throughout the masterclass, Vanessa's going to be talking a lot because she has a lot of great information. I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the information? What additional questions do you have? Do you have experience in what she's talking about? So don't feel the need to just, be quiet and watch and listen, but share your opinions. So without further ado, here is Vanessa. Welcome, Vanessa.
Hi, everyone. I am Vanessa Abron, and I'm so excited to partner with Women in Influencer Marketing to present to you PR influencers and how to elevate your talents, reach, and marketability. Before we get started, I do want to let you know that this is going to be a lot of information. So if you have questions, we are here to help you. Please feel free to drop your questions in the chat and we'll do our best to get those answered along the presentation. There will be a portion toward the end of the presentation where you can also ask questions. And we will also allow room for you guys to connect with me outside of today's presentation to get your questions answered. So sit back, take notes, and let's get started. So let's go ahead and start with what is PR and why does it matter? I always like to start with this because what I've noticed throughout my career is a lot of people think they have a concept of what PR is, and they do, but they don't really understand exactly what public relations is. So when I thought about how I am going to define this for you guys, I did a little bit of research, and I started with the Public Relations Society of America, which is the premier PR agency for public relations professionals. And the PRSA organization says public relations is a strategic communications process that builds mutually beneficial relationships between organizations and their publics. Now, when I read that definition, it feels a bit corporate to me and sounds like a lot of pretty words strung together, obviously by someone who works in PR, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. So I went a little bit deeper. I looked into the Google definition, and the Google definition describes it as the professional maintenance of a favorable public image by a company or other organization or famous person. And the alternative definition says it is the state of the relationship between the public and a company or other organization or famous person. A little bit clearer, right? A little bit, but not too much. So I decided I was going to take it upon myself and simplify it for you. So with my 20 years of experience, I decided to define public relations as the management of your overall public reputation. Simple enough, right? So moving forward, when we think about public relations, think about it as the management of your overall public reputation and the things that goes into making that happen. So, but what's the difference between PR and advertising? Simple enough, but also can be a bit complicated, right? I like to say that public relations and advertising are maybe siblings, maybe twins to some extent. But with advertising, you pay for that. You pay for the placement. It's guaranteed to show up in the public just how you planned it. However, with PR, the coverage is not paid for, and you have no control over how that content will be viewed by the public. In fact, you have no control if it's going to be viewed or not. And with advertising, because it's a paid placement, it's controlled and guaranteed. And for PR, it's what's called earned media coverage and it's uncontrolled. So that's the difference between public relations and advertising. And a lot of people get public relations and advertising confused, but they also think public relations can sometimes be sales. They think it's part of fundraising. They think it's sponsorship. All of these things are part of your marketing mix. However, they're not all public relations. So public relations and all of the above are all a part of marketing, but not all marketing is public relations, right? Makes sense. However, all of these verticals work together to support and complement each other. So while you're working in one area, what you do in advertising should fuel what happens in sales, fundraising, sponsorship, and PR, and what's happening in public relations to support what's going on in advertising and sales and thus forth. So, Vanessa, some may say, why should I invest in public relations or even concern myself with public relations if it's not guaranteed and I can't control the message? Well, it gives your brand some credibility. Have you ever noticed that when you meet someone or come across another brand and you go on their website and it says, as seen in Forbes, as seen on the Today Show, as seen in New York Times, you kind of give it a little bit more of a nod or a little bit more of a look, because having those media outlets kind of support these brands, let you know that they have a little bit more credibility to it. And because they did not pay for that and they had to convince someone for that coverage, you're a little bit more curious and you're a little bit more invested. It also increases your brand recognition. So there's a saying out there that says that for someone to recognize your brand, they have to hear it and see it at least 7 times. And that's the minimum. So when you see a commercial and we all have our favorites, we all have the jingles in our head and we know it over and over and over again because they are embedding it in our head. So when we're ready to invest in whatever it is they have to offer, we already know it. So the more that your brand is in different verticals, whether it be advertising, public relations, social media, and things of that nature, it's increasing brand recognition. So you want to make sure that your brand or your talent's brand is seen across a variety of different platforms. It also positions you and your talent or your business as an expert in that industry. So have you ever noticed that if someone was called to do an interview on a Today Show, they're now somewhat like an expert in the beauty industry or expert in fashion because they have now been on a certain media platform talking about a particular subject. And it just overall influences overall public opinion. We're coming off the heels of the elections, and we know that all of the media and things have been said has basically influenced how we decided to vote or if we were going to vote. So what you see in media does influence public opinion, and that is why you should show up, because that is an opportunity for you. So that is why PR is important, even though you don't pay for it and you cannot control it. Some of the things that public relations may include, but not limited to, is media relations. And this is the relationship that you have with media. This is the number one area where people tend to think of public relations. They kind of think public relations and media relations are one and the same. However, media relations is only part of public relations. And that is when you are engaging with media for an interview, some sort of article placement, things of that nature. But it may also include some level of event engagement where you do events whether it be a red carpet big gala or something small, like the cocktail events that you attend, anything that you do where you can allow your target audience to see, touch, and feel who you are, your brand, and what you have to offer, that may also be included in your public relations activities, because again, we said public relations is how you maintain a relationship with your public. When you speak in front of an audience, me speaking to you now is some form of public relations. When you allow yourself to be in front of an audience that may not be familiar with you, that is part of public relations. When you engage in the community, be it some sort of community service initiative, some sort of fundraiser, things of that nature, that's also part of your PR. The content development that you guys are already doing, you and your talent, that's part of your public relations. And influencer engagement, to a lot of extent, is public relations. I can say really briefly that I remember starting off in my career, blogger relations was really big. We started reaching out to bloggers for content engagement, and that grew into influencer engagement and thus forth. Today, more than public relation professionals engage in influencer engagement, but we do have influencer engagement as part of our bailiwick. So now that we have that out the way, what are the benefits of PR for influencers and talent managers? So, as a public relations professional, what I've done in the past was I used to do these events where I would bring together influencers and PR professionals so they can meet, develop a rapport with one another, do some brand engagement, things of that nature. And one of the things that I found was that a lot of influencers at that time, and still today, didn't know how to think beyond the numbers. So, yes, it is great that you have a lot of followers, or your talent has a lot of followers and they have the engagement. But what a lot of brands are looking for is the impact, and understanding public relations can help you do that. It is so important to be able to communicate who you are beyond just the numbers. So that is one of the reasons why understanding public relations is important for influencers. One of the things about PR is that we have to be able to tell a story to a journalist or another professional that demonstrates a return on the investment. So the return on the investment for us and with the journalists is that they are looking for us to give them a story that's going to drive clicks. And so that's the same thing that brands are looking for you. They're looking for ways to connect with you to either drive web traffic, to boost sales, increase brand affinity. And we are looking for you guys to tell us, what is your impact? As someone that has done a lot of influencer engagement, I can say that the influencers that the brands that I've worked with love the most were the ones that gave us a little bit of pushback. So when we're doing our outreach and we're trying to see what influencer is going to work, and the influencer that says, you know what, I think it'll be better if we did something like this, or tell me a little bit about what you're trying to accomplish, as opposed to the ones that's just giving us the numbers, that person always tends to give us the more success. And when we get the success from the campaign, then they were getting a return on our investment. So being able to, understand that relationship development, understanding the business impact, and understanding the trust that the brand is looking for you to deliver results can really help with that. And this takes you from paid promoter to a collaborative partner. And your PR skills will allow you to do that. And so one thing that I like to say is public relations, the heart of that relations is relationships. So it helps you to understand the building of the relationships and the crafting of a narrative, which we're going to talk about later on in this presentation. It also helps you to offer valuable insights to your audience. So a lot of you guys have worked with, and your clients have worked with other brands. We want to know what those success stories look like. We want to know, how does that translate? Tell those stories. Be a part of that narrative storytelling process. And we want you to co-create authentic campaigns with the brand. Don't be afraid to push back. I promise you, every time an influencer has pushed back, the brand has been so excited. And so when you can co-create and look at what we're trying to do and see how that fits into what you're already doing, and we can come together with something that makes sense, that is going to make the world of a difference. I have a quick story. I worked with a particular brand, and I actually convinced them to work with a micro influencer. And I gave them a lot of different options. I had, it was a micro influencer and it was some macro influencers and that. And they ended up going with this micro influencer because when I presented it to the micro influencer originally, he pushed back and said, well, I don't think this campaign will work right for me. And I said, well, why wouldn't it? He said, well, you're just asking me for how much I would, how much it costs for a story or for a static post. I would rather do something bigger that I can, tell a bigger story with. And I was like, tell me more. Long story short, we ended up going with that particular influencer, and that brand has continued to use that influencer for projects beyond to this day, bringing that partner on for speaking engagements at different conferences and things of the nature because that program was so big. And yet, because that influencer had the audaciousness to push back and say, I see something bigger than just telling you what my number is for X amount of stories and reels. So we want you to become a true partner and not just a paid promoter, and understanding the fundamentals of public relations will help with that. And so one thing I want you guys to understand is that it also helps with the authenticity, PR for content that resonates. So back when I started doing influencer engagement, back when it was blogger relations, there was a PR component to it where there was sort of like this magazine element to working with a content creator. The content creator was somewhat like your magazine person. So think about when you open up the pages of Allure or Vogue or Elle or Travel and Leisure, and you have a combination of articles and you have a combination of paid advertisement. And then some of that editorial content would include a roundup of the reporter or editor's favorite beauty picks or their favorite wines. Or for those who gets Oprah's magazine, she has the Oprah's favorite things, and to be included in that is like a huge deal. And so brands are looking to partner with you from that aspect. They want the paid stuff too, but they also want to create something that makes sense where they can share things with you and actually have you like it as opposed to just being paid for. Now, don't get me wrong here. I am definitely in favor for influencers getting paid. Let's not get that confused. But understanding public relations can be the gateway to understanding how to work with brands that you want to work with that you haven't quite been able to crack that nut with. So maybe there is some sort of communications where you do some sort of earned media with them in collaboration to build up to that paid engagement with them. So think of yourself like that magazine and develop that genuine connection. And I think a lot of influencers are doing that already, probably unbeknownst to them, sort of like the gifting. So when you are receiving those gifts, that's pretty much like an earned media or public relations engagement that you're doing with the brand. And elevating your talents roster. So this is PR for talent managers. So understanding PR allows you to position your talent as experts and thought leaders. And so securing media placements for them expands their reach beyond their social media. And this also helps with brands too, because when they know that, when they look at you and they see that your talent is being highlighted in different areas, then that of course also increases their worth, and it also increases the engagement because you understand PR and you understand that world, and it just makes it all the better. One person I can think of that can probably, that's an influencer that probably captured this really great, is Tabitha Brown. She's really great influencer, but she's also great from a PR perspective. She gets a lot of coverage, but she's also great at getting these brand deals and beyond. So she's kind of like the prototype when I think about this. So sit down with your talent and create some compelling narratives with them to attract those high value partnerships. And think about crisis communication strategies to protect their reputation. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but when you think about crisis communication, what happens if something goes wrong? Do you know what to do when that happens? So that is another reason why PR is good to consider. So unlocking the power of PR is the number one benefit is it creates stronger, long-lasting relationships with brands. It offers increased visibility and reach across multiple platforms. It generates more leads and sales through targeted campaigns and allows you to establish yourself or your talent as a thought leader in their niche. So we got like the nooks and crannies and the backstory. So now let's get ready to put all of this information together. Let's begin to craft a compelling brand story. To craft this compelling brand story, I thought it would be best if we start with three simple questions. The first one is, what am I doing, or your talent, that no one else is doing? How is it different from my competitors? Answering this question, no matter how minute the answer may be, is critical in separating you or your talent from the masses of other talent that brands may be looking at. So understand what it is that makes you different, that would make a brand want to work with you more. Why should anyone care about me or what I'm doing? And how does this fit into current conversations in a relevant way? So these are questions as a public relations professional that I often ask my clients in one way or another to create the messaging needed to communicate this to journalists for earned media or those interviews or things of that nature, articles and things of that nature. So, but it also makes a difference because if you can answer this for a journalist for earned media, then this is also a question that's worth sharing with brands that you want to work with. And sometimes these questions are a little tedious to answer. I've worked with some influencers from a PR perspective in the past, and a lot of them did just go off of, well, I have the numbers. I have the numbers. It's more than the numbers. A lot of people have numbers. How do you separate yourself from the other people that have numbers? And the answers to these questions is going to set you apart. And then once you create that story, you have to make it concise. As you guys know, in the social media era, as you guys know, in the social media era, our attention spans are short. So we have to be able to deliver compelling information in a short amount of time. How do we do this? I recommend that you start long. It's easier to edit than to add on information. So start with your lengthy narrative by answering those questions that I mentioned in the previous slide. Start with the lengthy narrative and then start to pare it down. Edit it down, edit. Work with your talent to do this. And then once you have that edited down so it's condensed, have a version that's simple enough that you can post it on Twitter on Threads, which is about 250 to 500 characters long. If you can create something that's 250 to 500 characters long, then you can definitely say that you've created something concise. And then the last thing is consider presenting your information in what I call the inverted pyramid. Now, spoiler alert, I did not create that term. It's something that I learned over the years in the public relations world. But essentially, the inverted pyramid is when you start with the most important information first and the least important information is last. And it's actually something that started within the newsroom. So when journalists write an article, what they do is they try to get you with the first sentence. So if you know nothing else about what they're going to say, you should know what the article is about in the first sentence. And then the next most important information comes behind that and behind it and behind it. So if you decided that you don't want to read the entire article, by at least reading the first paragraph or the first couple of sentences, you have a general idea of what it is and what you're getting yourself into. And that is what's going to hook you to see if you're going to read more or not. And so that's what I mean by the inverted pyramid. Get my attention at the beginning and put the least amount of it, put the least important information toward the end. Now that we have everything, it's time to build your relationship with the media. You have all your information. You know what public relations is. You know how to use it to your benefit. You know how to leverage it for yourself, and you know how to leverage it to connect with other brands. But now let's leverage it to connect with media. So as I mentioned before, media relations is all about relationships. It's not just press releases. Again, at the beginning, I mentioned how I used to host these events where I would bring together PR professionals and influencers so they can connect. And actually, these pictures are from events that I've done in the past of these influencers and people in media and brands connecting in an authentic way. And that is how you should approach media as well. So first, it's very audacious task to approach media for PR, especially when you have no background in doing so. So when you're doing this, which I do recommend, if you can't afford a PR person, start small, but think big. So identify 3 to 5 key media outlets that align with your brand and your niche. And then become familiar with their content and their audience. And then understand what they value and what kind of stories they publish. So again, you have to understand who they are, what they offer, and how what do you have to offer intertwines into that. So let's say you have a fashion influencer who really wants to be in Elle magazine. Focus on Elle magazine and nothing else, and get to know that content. Get to know that content so well that you know exactly how your talent fits into the content of Elle. Maybe your approach is getting your talent to be a contributor to a post. Maybe your talent has an article that they want to produce. Maybe it's they have a roundup recommendation. Who knows? It's up to you and your talent to sit down and read through the content of Elle magazine or Lure and figure out how it fits into Elle, and then spell it out for that editor to do so. And we're going to talk about how to do that a little bit later, but think small, because this is pretty challenging to do. Then know the journalist. So let's say you wanted to be in USA Today and you wanted to be in the entertainment section of USA Today. So I went to USA Today, I went to the entertainment section, and I pulled up this article. And this article is by Greta Cross, and she did an article about Malcolm in the Middle star Frankie Muniz announced his full-time NASCAR career. Okay, Greta did this article. Okay, who is Greta? So I found Greta on social media. Okay, I see who she is. Okay, let me look at her content. Oh, looking at Greta's content, I see that she is a fan of Doctor Who. Okay, so now I'm getting to know this person. I'm kind of see that they're quirky, things of that nature. So when you're trying to connect with journalists, pay attention to who they are and what kind of content they're creating. Follow them on social media so you get a sense of who they are, and then engage with their content to understand their interests. This is important because I remember I was working with a particular agency, and the person that I was working with was on the advertising side and not that familiar with PR. And she saw one of my pitches to an editor about something that we were doing. And when she saw it, she was very upset that I wasn't extremely formal in my outreach. And I was like, but I got you the answer. And so what people often don't understand is you have to connect with your editor or your writer where they are. If I can tell that Greta is not a very formal person, I'm not going to send Greta a very formal email. I'm going to meet Greta where she's at. And most journalists tend to not be extremely formal. There's no time for formality. They really want you to get to the chase. So it pays to understand who you are, how to connect with them, and be personable because they are people too. And then you're going to craft your killer's pitch. You're going to highlight your unique value proposition. You're going to showcase your past success and your return on investment. And you're going to articulate the benefit to the journalist and the audience. And I have an example of this right here. This is pretty small, so you might want to take a screenshot of this here. But this is actually a real pitch that I've done for a real client that was very recent. This person is somewhat of an influencer, which is why I used this pitch example. And this particular pitch allowed me to get this client in a lot of different media verticals that worked. So I wanted to show it to you so you guys can get an idea of how what I'm saying fits into real world application. So good afternoon, Sheridan. I hope you're doing well and ready for the weekend. So I'm being personable. However, before you get ready for Friday, I'm writing to introduce to you, blah, 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 a highly sought after mental health consultant, trauma therapist, and author with a powerful message of empowerment specifically tailored towards Black women. So this particular influencer was also a Black woman who was in the mental health care space. This person has expertise that aligns perfectly with the interests of your publication's core audience, offering fresh and insightful perspectives on topics that they resonate deeply. And then I gave a few, such as mental health, addressing the unique challenges that Black women face, dating and relationships, navigating womanhood, overcoming trauma, etc. So I laid out for them exactly how I saw this person aligning with what they had to offer. And then I talk a little bit more about the person. They have a unique combination of professional experience combined with personal experience, and they have an engaging communication style, making them a compelling voice. Here are some potential article or video ideas. I bulleted that out for them. And then I said she's open for interviews, Q&A sessions, or what have you. And then I gave some more information with her website, said, can we talk more? And so I sent this out once. Probably the second time that I followed up, like, hey, did you get this email? That's when I started to get a little bit more of a response, but I kind of laid it out. Now, I'm going to be honest. The people that picked up her story didn't cover these stories per se, but by me allowing them to see the different approaches of the things that she can talk about, allowed them to say, oh, we can incorporate this person into this story. So one publication reached out and had her talk about women and body image issues and things of that nature. Another publication reached out about imposter syndrome. Another person reached out to have her talk about, navigating corporate life as a woman. So it was a lot of different topics that this pitch allowed the editor to see. And what I did was I fleshed it out for them. So these are some things to remember. Remember the 30-second rule. Grab their attention in the first 30 seconds. It kind of goes into that inverted pyramid that I told you about. Get it right away and then let the least important information fall to the bottom. So you lead with that first, not your bio. A lot of people lose journalists and brands by leading with their bio first. Lead with what you want, what you're trying to do, and how you can help them, and make it concise, compelling, and mutually beneficial. Let them know that not just what you are doing is good, but let them know, show how what they're doing, how what you're doing, and how what your talent is doing will also be great for the brand or that media outlet. And also leverage the media databases. I know we in the PR world, we use platforms like Cision, Muckrack, Meltwater. I also still use Google. I also still use social media to connect with journalists as well. There's been times where I found a journalist, couldn't find the information on the paid databases, connected with them directly through social media. And think beyond the screen, think beyond the keyboard. I know in this day and age of social media, we tend to stay beyond the screen, but consider connecting with people in real life. One easy way to do this is to join journalism organizations. And actually, as influencers, I think your talent should join these organizations because they kind of align a lot with journalists as well. And I think these organizations would be very willing and happy to take them in to be a part of their network. So look at organizations like the Society of Journalists and Authors and the National Association of Black Journalists, if there's someone that's a part of any affinity groups. Invite these people out to coffee, lunch, or cocktails, or if you have a +1 to an influencer event, consider inviting that journalist to accompany you so you can develop that rapport. There have been times, while I'm not an influencer on a macro level, there have been times where I have been gifted opportunities to attend something as a nano influencer. And if I wanted to develop a rapport with someone, I would invite them as my +1 to these things. And that allowed me to get to know them better and to develop a deeper rapport with them. And if there's an opportunity for you to highlight these journalists on your platform where it's applicable to you and it makes sense for you and your platform, considering doing a blog interview or some sort of podcast interview or maybe even IG Live so that they can feel some sort of connection and a mutual beneficial relationship with you as well. And so I talk more about this in my book, Public Relations for Influencers and Content Creators. It's available for purchase now at agencyabron.com. And I'm giving WIM members a discount, or all of you guys that are here, a discount of $5 off until November 30th. And you can screen that. You can scan that QR code here to get direct access to that. And the discount code is WIM Winner, because you guys are winners for being here, right? And if you want to stay in touch, you can do so. There's my email and my website. And you can also follow me on socials. And without further ado, right now, I am going to take a couple of questions. Prior to this, I know a lot of you guys, when you signed up, you sent in some questions. So the first question that I received is, I've been behind the scenes in the entertainment industry for a long time, managing artists' back office and deals. I'm also a creative consultant. How do I transition with the skills I have in marketing management to the PR and artist management opportunities presenting themselves? So it's so funny that I got this question because I actually started in the entertainment industry. And those skills are actually very transferable. I started doing marketing for an agency that worked with labels like Def Jam, Interscope, Virgin, Hidden Beach Recordings, and things of that nature before I started working with straight PR agencies. And I can say that the experience that I got doing, artist consultancy behind, back office, things like that, really did help with, and does to this day, helps with my PR career. So if you want to transition, just transition. It may be hard sometimes for people to see right away how those skill sets transfer, but keep asking. Potentially consider volunteering for a not-for-profit organization that could use some PR skills so you can build up your PR resume a little bit more. So that's an example I love to give. If you're working with artists and you have some PR that you've been doing for them already, such as getting them press and things of that nature, leverage that as part of your portfolio when you start to go straight into doing public relations. And as I mentioned here, my contact information is on the screen. I'm more than happy to talk to you more. So please feel free to email me, and I'm happy to set up a call to discuss that more. The next question I received are there any tips for handling crisis management situations? Yes, there are. So there are a few things that we can do. If you're not skilled in public relations, this is a little bit difficult. But one thing that I've learned as a PR professional is sometimes you have to wait and listen, which is kind of hard to do. And it depends on the severity of the crisis communications. So, for example, I was working with the brand, and the brand had a very high profile person that worked for the company go into a Twitter battle with somebody. And they found out that this person worked for the company. So then they tried to say something else. And so then the brand got involved and apologized on behalf of the individual. But then that backfired. And then within a couple of days, the news cycle was on to something else. So sometimes it's like, is this really worth responding to right now? So I would say number one is kind of wait and listen before you give a response. Number two is if it's very critical and if it's a legal issue, sometimes you can't respond. So for legal issues, so if it's legally related, I say also pause. While I'm not trying to sell PR services, it's usually best to contact a PR person to help you with that because it's a skill set that you have to develop to navigate it. But I would say the biggest thing is to don't react right away. It's to pause, listen, and to see what it is. And then if you are going to respond, let's say someone did do something wrong. I think people are getting tired of the empty apologies. So if you're going to apologize or, do something, come with actionable steps of what you're going to do to rectify the situation. But because crisis communication is so complex and what that crisis may look like can be so different, it's hard to give direct feedback onto how to handle it. So I would say number one, pause, look at the situation, and talk to a consultant before you make a decision. I hope that helps. And the last question I got is, how can a college student gain more experience to jumpstart their career before graduating? Intern. intern, consult with other PR professionals or whatever profession it is that you're looking into. So if you're trying to go into influencer engagement, connect with other people that work in influencer engagement. Intern at influencer engagement agencies or PR agencies or whatever that may be. Connect with people that are doing what you're doing, what you want to do, and have them on as mentors. Ask them to help you with gaining some experience. Maybe they have a project. Maybe they'll allow you to shadow them. Maybe you can do some informational interviews with these folks. But align yourself with people that are doing what you're doing. I don't agree with having people working for free, but I do think that there is something to say about gaining some experience as a learning thing. So, for example, I also teach at Columbia College, and one of my students came to me looking to go into fashion PR, and she got offered an opportunity to work at a fashion house doing PR, but it was unpaid, and she really wanted to make money. So I asked her, I said, okay, well, what are the hours that they want you to work? They really wanted her to work maybe 1 day a week. And I said, well, for because you don't have the experience, I think you should do the 1 day a week and get that experience. And on the side, you can get a part-time job somewhere, maybe at a boutique or something, but get that experience. And I think a lot of people miss out on developing the experience because paying people that don't know what to do is a very hard thing to do, especially in certain industries, and especially when you're working with smaller businesses that just don't have the corporate dollars um, that that is necessary to pay interns all the time. And as someone who has had interns, I've lost money just teaching interns on the job than just paying them. So I would say look into doing a internship, but in exchange for it being non-paid, don't allow them to take advantage of you. See if you can get some sort of college credit for it, and transfer it that way for a grade. But if you have more questions, I'm more than happy to answer those questions as well. Ladies and gentlemen, that now concludes our presentation. Thank you so much for your time, effort, and energy. I hope you guys learned a lot. If for any reasons you have any outstanding questions, please feel free to contact me. Right here on the screen, you're going to see a QR code for you to scan and submit questions, which I will respond to you personally within 24 hours to get you those answers. And if you would like to connect with me further about assisting you or your talent with their public relations efforts, I am more than happy to do some sort of consultation or exploratory call to get that started. So feel free to either scan that code or email me directly here. Last but not least, I do highly recommend that you get Public Relations for Influencers and Content Creators. I really wrote that book just for you guys. That book, I had you guys in mind for this. With this discount code, it's only $20. You're going to get a ton of information that's going to help you flesh out all of this information the way that you need it to be fleshed out. And again, always here to help you answer any questions. I look forward to working with you guys again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Again, I'm going to bring up that QR code right now because if you do have any questions, Vanessa's amazing. Just scan this QR code. The questions will go right to her and she'll write you back an email with an answer to any of your questions if we didn't get to them today. I also, look, I own a networking organization, so I want you guys to connect with her because she's wonderful. So scan the QR code, get in touch. She's awesome. And I know you guys have other questions. I know you're sitting on them. So don't miss out on this opportunity. Really take advantage and lean into it. So that's the QR code for that. Also, I'm going to bring up one more QR code, and that is for any of you guys who are watching today who are not officially a member of WIM. You might be part of our community. You might have just found us through this masterclass, but our community and our membership is incredible. The people that you'll meet, the resources that you'll get, and those are our like VIPs. So what I am giving to you guys as a gift for showing up today and being so interested in this topic is a free month, an entirely free month of membership just for you guys. Scan this QR code and use the code that's on your screen, and you'll get an entirely free month. This applies to both the industry and the industry plus memberships, and it's worth $49. So we always want to show our appreciation there. Who doesn't love freebies and giveaways? And we will be sending all of these offers to you in a wrap-up email in a little bit after this event. So thank you guys so much for tuning in today. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we hope to see you more around WIM.